You're listening to Big Blend Radio's Toast of the Art Show with Nancy and Lisa, and you just heard Split Decision, the first track on acclaimed jazz fusion composer, drummer, and producer Bob Holz. It's his third internationally distributed album. It's called Visions, Coast to Coast Connection, and it features bass legends Stanley Clarke and Ralph Armstrong. It releases February 23rd, 2018. Get it on Amazon. You can pre-order it. It's on iTunes. You can also go to Bob's website, bobholtzband.com. There's no T in that, Holtz. I'm just saying.
Leave the T out.
Leave the T out, even though we have
don't
T
need
here.
T.
But bobholtzband.com. He's on YouTube, all those great places. But welcome to the show, Bob. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's great to be here. Very nice day. It was nice listening to that music.
I know. That was good music. Do you know the person who produced that and wrote it?
Yeah. He's kind of familiar.
So where are you today? Because I know you like to travel to California and the Keys. Where are you today?
I am down in Daytona Beach, Florida. I've been here for the last month rehearsing for a cruise concert I'm doing on the 15th of February, the Rock Legends cruise out of Fort Lauderdale. I'm playing on that.
Cool.
Right on. And I was looking at.
I want to go.
I know. And Daytona Beach is a blast. That's fun.
It is.
We had some good times in Daytona.
Yeah, we did.
I remember meeting an Elvis impersonator that didn't look like Elvis. He had long blonde hair. But he got up and sang karaoke, and that changed my mind forever. You can be blonde and be Elvis.
Yeah, you can. Who knows? Elvis might have been blonde.
Have you found him walking the streets of Daytona?
No, I haven't seen him yet. Just a lot of people, interested in the track here, the race car thing.
Yeah. Well, there it is.
There it is.
So
Speed
now
wins.
I want to know, before we get into the album, which is amazing. Oh, I have to ask this on Split Decision. Who's playing the keys? I love the way it sneaks up. Oh, it's exciting.
He is my musical partner. His name is Bill Steinway, and he's played on a number of my records. We kind of have written songs together, so he's been consistently with me in my musical travels. He lives out in L.A. and is kind of a session player out there. Bill Steinway.
And
really
what about the brass section?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's really interesting. The fellow that helped me with the horn charts, his name is Andrew Lipman, and he plays trombone on there. He's the musical director for the show Dancing with the Stars. So he grabbed one of the trumpet players that's in that band and himself, and then I brought the sax player in. So we had 3 horn parts going on there, and I had them trading there at the end, which kind of was really fun for them.
Yeah, because when you listen to your music, that Split Decision, there's a conversation going on between the musicians to me.
Yes, it was really spontaneous. I mean, and the music we play is really that way with the improvisation that's going on. It's really kind of just created on the spot. And you hope for the best, and you got to live with whatever comes out. So, yeah, absolutely.
So it's going to be different every time you play it, even down to the point when you're about to record?
Well, the solo sections usually wind up being somewhat different. The actual form of the tune, I had charts prepared, and so, the chord changes stay the same. The basic foundation, but we leave room for the solos to kind of expand depending on how they're feeling.
Cool, very cool. I love that. And is that how Jammin' was born? Jammin' Man.
Jammin' Man. I have spent a fair amount of time down in the Caribbean, on vacation and all, and I just wanted to do something for a long time with that reggae feel, and then the idea of having Stanley Clarke play the bass solo on that and Randy Brecker playing the trumpet kind of pulled it all and made it gel. And then the guitar solo section, I had it modulate into another chord, and it opens up into more of a real fusion type of some heavy guitar playing by a guy by the name of Alex Matchacek, who's from Austria. Played some fine guitar on there. So, I mean, That's the first time I've ever really done anything with a real reggae feel to it.
I loved it because it. But then you've also haven't you like I was looking at the list of people you have performed with, and it's just like wow. But you got some reggae people in there. Peter Tosh. I mean, come on. Peter Tosh is like the man.
I was so fortunate. Yeah, we when I was only probably 21 years old, and we got to open up for Peter Tosh, and then we met him, and it was just a wonderful experience, And you're right. I mean, I have listened to reggae for a long time. It's been an influence in my playing. So now here it is. I wanted to wait until I had the right players to really put something out there that I thought would be okay.
That's what I love about this album is you've got a little bit of everything, and it's what I was saying, jazz fusion, you really do have that fusion, and I love it because I think it is an album that for those who may be wary of jazz, because jazz has gone through some really interesting stages, especially in the radio world, that some people think, okay, jazz can be too heavy with all the scatting, and for some. And I think this album will open the doors to people who may not have listened to jazz before, or kind of need to get back into it.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, we try to keep it kind of eclectic, and through it all, have a really good, strong beat that people can feel. And I mean, the chord changes. Some of them are jazz, but I'm pulling a lot from just rock and roll and R&B and the blues. Really run through all the tunes. So I agree with you. I hope some people can open their minds up and check out some different approaches to it.
Yeah, I think that's great because sometimes with some jazz, you really do tend to get lost, and it is like what we were talking about earlier. The foundation of the band, the chords have to stay the same. Chord changes have to be on time, and you got to have a good drum beat, or you do get lost in jazz. It's like
that can be fun.
I know. So the drummer decides, I'm going to do this a beat now. Let's play a waltz.
Yeah, I guess it's what kind of mood you're in, But no, I would agree there. Yeah, we've tried to kind of get a focus on what we're doing so that we're not going over the heads of people, and at the same time, they're hearing something that isn't, just really a simplistic form, and that they can enjoy it. The more they listen to it, they start hearing new things each time they listen to it, hopefully.
Yeah. I know. I want to take this on the road. This is like a road trip album. Like I felt like listening. It's like a journey. It really is.
It's like that Route 66 TV series. Like the two dudes get in the car and off they go, and you're like, you can hear from the music. Here comes trouble.
Yeah, no, I like it because some of it you feel like you are driving along the coast. You really do have that feeling, and as we're getting into spring, well, I know they say we're going to have 6 more weeks of winter. It doesn't feel like that here in Tucson right now, but when as we get into spring, it's like, hey, put the top down and listen to this, And I love the keys throughout this. I think there's this really warm feeling that it brings into the entire album. It's kind of like this nice gel to it.
Yeah, Bill is really great at different soundscapes. He last year he played on the Grammy Awards with Annie Lennox from the Eurythmics. He's done a lot with her, and he's worked some with Stevie Wonder, and so you hit the nail on the head there. He really likes to create these soundscapes with different types of keyboard textures, and it comes through really nice.
Richie's Trip, talk about that, because we're talking about road tripping. Because to me, there's an incredible build-up in that song where it just keeps building and building up.
Yeah, it's a tribute to the drummer who passed away that played with the band Little Feat. I don't know if you remember those guys. Little Feat was a really big band back in the 70s and 80s, and Richie Hayward was a pretty strong influence on me. So it's a tribute to him. What I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of combine the element of like a rock type song, in the first movement, and then contrast it to more of like a jazzy blues B section. So it kind of goes back and forth between those two. And, yeah, it came out really interesting, especially, you know, in the tail end of that track where it kind of boils down to this final mellow section that the horn players just really it was really spontaneous. We didn't really intend to do that, but the more I listened to it, the more I liked it. So, you know, that's what that's about.
What is that like, creating your own album and then listening to it? I mean, as do you keep listening to it every single day? Do you listen to it in the car, or do you sit and listen in the producing room, the mixing room? Where do you really get the full effect of it? And do you have to walk away and put it away and then listen to it again?
Kind of everything you said. I mean, it starts with a lot of pre-planning and just, you know, coming up with musical ideas at the keyboard, and then, you know, starting to put together the tunes. And then once I have the tunes formulated, then I'll go into a studio and do a pre-production recordings that aren't even going to be used. Basically, they're just to get something on tape to listen to. And then once, you know, I've had some time to digest that, then, you know, we go into the studio and actually record the final tracks, and then the mix down, and then the mastering. So, yeah, it's an emotional kind of thing. It really does kind of take you over for a while. And you're right, after a while you just can't listen to it anymore because you've heard it so much. But it's a great process to go through, and every time you go through making an album, you learn something new, technically and artistically, and there's a lot of diplomacy because you're dealing with a lot of different people and personalities, and you know, when you're getting into the production side of it, so, you know, you want to make sure that you're doing things in a accepted business practice method so that, you know, people are happy with how it turns out. But it's all good, you know. I mean, it's worth doing it, I think, you know. Every musician wants to get their ideas out, and even if they're not selling 1 million copies, you know, players really today have the opportunity to create, you know, their art form and get it out there to whoever wants to listen to it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. The internet helps, but you know, getting out there, you have to do that. There's always that business side, which is such a pain in the butt in the creative process.
Oh, I know.
I mean, it's just like, can't we just create, and then some little magical fairy comes out and takes care of the business side? But that's how you lose your money.
No, I want to hit it with a big old bat.
You know, you have to. You can be creative. And then the trick is to be creative in your business side of it too. So
you could do
so you
that
can dodge the tax
man.
man.
Yeah, I didn't say that.
You are so right. I mean, the music is only maybe 3/4 of it, or half of it even. And, you know, the whole business side of it, people don't realize how much that can consume you. There's a lot to it, and, you know, it takes up a lot of time. So, you know, you got to be ready for what's coming your way if you undertake the production of a record.
Exactly. So are you going to tour with this album?
Well, yes. You know, this is my third nationally released record, and on the first one I put a band together. My band's called Bob Holz and A Vision Forward, and initially it was the guitar player that was playing with me was the late Larry Coryell, who was a real famous jazz guitarist. And then when Larry passed away, I joined forces with former Spyro Gyra guitarist, a guy by the name of Chet Cataldo, who was a platinum recording artist with the band Spyro Gyra. And we have gone out and we've played probably about 20 shows around the country. We played in Hollywood last May at the Catalina Jazz Club out there. We've played in Washington, D.C. at Blues Alley, which is a pretty famous jazz club. And we've done some festivals, and the plan is to continue doing that. Chet, the guitar player, he had to step down. He's got his own thing going in Rochester, so I was fortunate to find a guy by the name of Jamie Glasser, who was a really well-known guitar player he's played with Chick Corea and the French violinist Jean-Luc Ponty for many years. So and then he was with Bryan Adams, the rock singer, on a number of albums back in the 80s. So he brings a whole new bag of really good quality music into the band. And the lineup is me, my partner Bill Steinway on keyboards, Ralph Armstrong on bass, who's on the album.
Yeah.
And Ralph has played with everybody in the industry. He's from 20 years with Aretha Franklin to people like Carlos Santana. He's a very busy bass player, but lucky to have him in the band. And then rounding it out is Jamie Glasser on guitar. So we are now gearing up to go out and do some dates here in the spring and into the summer. So yes, absolutely, we're going to take the music out to the people.
Cool. Right on. And I want to make sure everybody knows that you're on Twitter, you're on Facebook, and also to go directly to your website, bobholtzband.com. Again, no T in there. Apparently you don't like the T's, huh? No T's in there.
Everybody wants to put that in there. Yeah, I mean, if you just punch my name into Google, you'll get all our social media, and it's very easy to kind of get through and find out what I have going on.
What I wanted to ask in the beginning, and we got into the album, is, listening to the album and having all these different influences in it. I mean, as a kid, were you into jazz? I mean, or were you into a variety of styles of music?
Yeah, well, I started out like a million other drummers. I mean, I saw Ringo with the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and that got me into music. And then my dad had some jazz LPs laying around the house that I listened to, and I was lucky I had an older brother, 5 years older than me, that was bringing his music into the house. And then when I got into junior high school, that was like in the early 70s, there was kind of an explosion of jazz fusion going on with bands like Mahavishnu Orchestra, Weather Report, Return to Forever. So I was in junior high and high school and actually going out and seeing a lot of these bands. So yes, I started getting really into jazz. It was more, that jazz rock kind of blend, and you hear it in the music I'm putting out all the time now. And since then, as I got older, I went back and studied some of the jazz masters from way before that. The whole bebop era and the swing era, big band stuff. So I like it all. I have really eclectic tastes. If it's good, I like it. I have one track on the new album that has the vocals on it. It's a tribute to Larry Coryell and Alphonse Mouzon. Both those guys passed away last year, and on the Grammys the other night they had a very nice quick mention of Larry Coryell. So I wrote that tune and I put some vocals to it and had a great singer sing it. I like it, and I think that's going to be a platform for my next record. I'm going to kind of get more into vocal-oriented stuff, and maybe a little bit less soloing and a little bit more song content. I still have the soloing, but I definitely think people can really relate to lyrics, and bringing that into my music seems to work pretty good.
Yes, Espresso Addiction. It's a great track, and that is actually one of the ones that got me all. I felt like I was driving in Malibu for some reason, and then I felt like I went to New York from there. I felt like I had both styles and like both destinations, there. It's interesting with the vocals too. I was like, oh, vocals, and I think you're right. I think having that blend of, some instrumental, some vocals, people do, attach to the words like you're saying. But how do you write? I mean, that's what's so fascinating to me is like you're a drummer and you're a composer, and then you have to go get the rest of the band, because you can't just be a drum soloist, How do you write the actual songs? I mean,
on Espresso Addiction, the tribute vocal tune, the lyrics came to me very quickly. I'd say in about 15 minutes I was able to get that down. I spent a lot of time with Larry Coryell. We did a lot of gigs together, in the latter part of his life, and so, the emotional content surrounding all that was just really good fuel to get it out quickly. And I have kind of a knack for lyrics, and you know, on the music side, I'll usually start at the keyboard or on a guitar, and come up with some chord changes, and then a melody in my head, and then you know, I'll get together with a keyboard player, and we'll kind of refine together the tune, and you know, bring it up to a level where we could record it. That's the process usually.
That's neat. That's interesting. Yeah, because you always wonder about how do drummers do all that. You know, how they write.
Well, you know, I went to Berkeley out in Boston, and they tried to teach me how to play some piano and some music theory. So I guess you know, I got something out of that.
I wanted to ask you too on the blues side of things. It was interesting looking at what you've done in history, your musical history, and you participated and performed as a finalist at the W.C. Handy Blues Awards in 2010. So you went up to Memphis for that, #1 Memphis. That's got to be cool. What was that like? Tell us about that.
Well, that was a national competition, and I was in a band from Central New York that was asked to go there and play. You know, it was just very exciting. I had never been there, and, you know, walking up and down that main drag with all those wonderful clubs and the music coming out of there, it was just great to be part of it. Yeah, I mean, my blues roots go way back. When I was like 19 years old, I had the good fortune to open up for Howlin' Wolf with his band, and he was nice enough to invite me and some of the other people in my band up to play with him. So that's you know, that was kind of how I got introduced to all that great music, you know, at a young age, and then over the years, you know, just opening up for people like James, and then you know, I got to play with the singer Shamika Copeland a little bit. She's you know, I think a 3-time Handy Award winner. She's a really great singer, and you know, I've always had that affinity to the blues, and you know, taken the feel of the blues and tried to put that into other styles of music. Kind of, you know, that's really kind of where jazz, you know, was derived from, was out of the blues. So it's a big piece of my musical heritage.
Well, speaking of that, let's play West Coast Blues. I want people to hear that. Tell us about the track.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, you know, I it's funny how you were talking how this music is really conjures up, you know, images of certain places around the country. Well, you know, it is really amazing to me that, you know, you can go to a place like New York and record, and it just has that sound that we all know. You know, we may have experienced it watching, you know, Johnny Carson or Jay Leno, listening to that band. Those, you know, the sound they had is kind of inherent to the location. And New York has its own cool vibe too. So that, you know, I when I was out in L.A., not for this album, but a previous record, I was out there recording Visions and Friends, the last one, and you know, I just wanted to put something together that would, you know, showcase the blues, but with Ralph Armstrong really playing a part on bass. You know, I wanted to make it unique. I let him actually play the melody line on bass, and we came up with something pretty funky, I think. You know, it's Ralph is a really great bass player, and, you know, he just stood right up and, you know, took it under and came up with a really cool melody line that, you know, plays through that, and then there's room for the horns to blow around it. It's kind of just a traditional, you know, nothing too complex, 1-4-5 progression, they call that in the blues. And, you know, I mean, it just kind of came to me while I was out there in L.A. I was going to some open mics at one over at the Baked Potato, which is a really famous jazz fusion room out there, and then, you know, I sat down in Santa Monica at a place called Harvell's where Bill hosts an open mic there, and they get some really great horn players that go in there every week. And so out of that, you know, I just kind of threw this tune together, and I couldn't think of anything else to name it. That's what it was, you know. It was the West Coast Blues, so.
I love it. It's one of my favorites on the album. We're going to play it now, everybody. Take a listen. West Coast Blues. Again, the album is coming out. It's called Visions Coast to Coast Connection, and it's coming out February 23rd. You can get it on Amazon and iTunes. Here it is. everyone. That was West Coast Blues, and it is featured on acclaimed jazz fusion composer, drummer, and producer Bob Holtz's third internationally distributed album, Visions Coast to Coast Connection, coming out February 23rd. Get it on Amazon and iTunes, or go to bobholtzband.com. Man, that's got such a good groove, and then all these magical goodies come in, like the guitar and the bass runs.
It's like walking down
Yummy.
to like Venice Beach.
I know. I do feel like it's like Venice Beach.
Beach.
I miss Venice Beach.
Yeah.
I miss Venice Beach.
Because everywhere you look, there's a little something different
I
going
know.
on.
I know. I totally feel like you should have sunglasses on and be walking the dog.
One of those little beanie caps.
And like there's all these little goodies, but you've got the same groove that keeps you going forward. You know, It's cool.
Well, a mission accomplished then.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Venice Beach is, come on, it's one of the best places on earth.
Place.
If you're ever going to people watch, right?
But yeah, really.
That's the place.
Yeah.
I miss it out there. Yeah, no, and the guitar work on that, man, I love the guitar work on that. It kind of reminded me of Dave Milton, who's a guitarist that played out there. We met him with Johnny Master on the Mama's Boys years ago. And
yeah, he was great.
Had a little bit of that same jam vibe to it, you know?
Maybe that's why my mind went to Venice Beach, like right away.
Had to play that, Bob. Had to play that. Now, before you go, I know we want to play Spanish Plains. I love this song, and it's something, I know we were talking before we went live, that it's just something you don't hear. I mean, it's very, to me, a very unique song.
Yeah, and the way it was conceived is kind of unique. The person that I partnered with on that tune, his name is Frank Stepanek. He's the guitar player. And Frank plays, for the last 30 years, he's been with the Jamaican reggae band Black Uhuru, they're called. They're a really internationally famous reggae band. And so he's their guitar player. Well, it just so happens that he lives in a very unlikely place. He lives in Syracuse, New York, my hometown, and, you know, we've been friends for a long time. Yeah, he flies all over the world. He just got back from New Zealand playing with them. So, I don't know, for some reason he must like all the snow and cold, but Frank and I put that together. It doesn't sound like anything you would think coming out of Syracuse. It sounds more like something, you know, you would expect from either, you know, where you guys are located or Spain. But maybe it's because of all his international travels. He's picked up on a lot of that feel. So we wanted to do something with the acoustic guitar that would contrast the rest of the album. And the last two tracks on the album are what I would call bonus tracks. One is Spanish Plains, and then the other's a live cut show in Hollywood last May. But so far, everyone that's heard Spanish Plains has really liked it. It was recorded at a different studio, so it's a slightly different sound, which we were trying to do. We wanted to just kind of change gears a little bit, make it fresh.
I like it. To me, it's. I want to paint when I listen to it. And I don't paint. That's Nancy's job. But it makes me want to paint.
I could paint pictures to this kind of music all day long.
I know. That's what I said. It's a jazz journey. It's super cool. Okay, last question is visions. So where does that come from for you? I mean, are you when you're composing, do you have like imagery going on?
Yes. Yeah, many times I do. Or, you know, lately I've been doing a lot of tribute type stuff, like to other artists. But the one tune on the album called Light and Dark was it was conceived that way, you know, kind of a mood piece. And, you know, really kind of low-keyed, you know, slow rhythm. Really interesting keyboards, and out of that, you know, came this really amazing keyboard work from Billy Steinway. I mean, he just knocked it out of the park on that one tune. So Light and Dark would be an example of more like what you're referring to, where, you know, I'm looking at certain emotions that, you know, that we people all feel, and that, you know, how that can be emulated with music. So, or, you know, the music brings out the emotion. And so that's one way to write for sure.
Right on. I like that. musical meditations?
I think it'd be fun to like assign a color or shades of different colors to each musical note, and then just go for it and paint as fast as you can to the music. Like, and you probably have to do it like 5 or 6 times and go back per instrument. Now, okay, so you put in all the drums and then turn around, and so that's one color and shades of that color, and then you go back and here comes the horns, and that'd be wow.
What's in your water this morning?
Well, you're not that far off because it's like a palette of colors. You're right, and I've heard musicians say exactly what you just said. Assigning colors to certain tones and using it that way. So, the geniuses have thought about that stuff.
See, I'm a genius, haha.
You go, girl. You go, girl. That's it. I'm not going to hear the end of this now. Thanks so much, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Everyone, again, keep up with Bob on his website, bobholtzband.com. There's no T in that, Holtz. And the album, again, Visions, Coast to Coast Connection, is out on February 23rd. You can pre-order it now on Amazon, and you can also get it on iTunes. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure.
I really appreciate it. It was great to be here, and you guys have a great day.
Thanks, you too, and congrats on the album. Everybody, here it is,
Okay.
Spanish Plains. Enjoy.
And
Take
I'm
care.
A genius.